look, let's work together here. Let me help you with an acquisition so that you don't have to put any money down.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Wealth Unfiltered. I'm Samantha Parinello, your host, and today I have a great guest for you. I have Mr. Reagan Rodriguez, who is the CEO of Fifth Avenue Capital, but is also the futurist for Fifth Avenue Underground Club. So we're going to dive right in, and I'd like to welcome you to the show. So hi, Reagan.
Well, welcome, and I'm glad we're diving in.
Yeah, so happy to have you on the show. So I really want to start with, I think our listeners really need to understand what is a futurist and what is the Underground Club.
Sure. I'm not a self-proclaimed futurist. I had been given that title by a few people, and it's interesting if you were to Google it, because there's even college classes now on futurism, and there's even jobs that hire futurists. So, for example, I met someone, I think it was about a year or two ago, and she was a salaried, paid employee as a futurist with Lululemon. And I met another person that was a futurist that was with WeWork as well. So there are companies that actually do hire people to look into the future of what might be happening. For example, it's interesting you asked that. I have a friend that's pretty high up at Chase in the financial services industries, just has really made his way up there. And it was actually around last year, around this time, I got together with him. I think it was like a day or two before Thanksgiving. And I asked him, what are you guys looking for at Chase? And again, this is the type of guy that has access to talking to Jamie Dimon. And I said, what are you guys looking for in terms of the kind of people you're looking for to hire in degrees? And whether he was using a little bit of shock therapy with me, I remember we were having lunch and he says, well, we're definitely looking for people with degrees in finance. And I kind of thought he'd say that. And I said, let me guess, you guys are looking for philosophy majors? And he goes, yeah, that just came out in the last conference call. I said, I had a feeling. So I don't know if you knew this, but Mark Cuban, for his kind of private equity group, he's looking for people with philosophy majors as well. Could you guess on why that might be, Samantha?
Well, I imagine it's probably because they're looking for people who can expect things, predict things, look towards the future.
Yes. And so the study of futurism and philosophy is very similar. Now, the other thing, although I'm smiling on this, those that I do know that are futurists that work as consultants for companies as futurists, I will admit this. When I do get together with them for a cup of coffee as a group, they, or should I say we, are kind of the most miserable people out there. And if you've ever studied philosophy, yeah, hey, although we're laughing about this, most philosophers, what do they all have in common? They all died miserable.
Oh.
If you look at all of the very well-known ones, that's what they all had in common. And I think just in the study of futurism, we're thinking so much in the future. I'm going to take a step back. Jeff Bezos, you can find this on a panel he was on, and they asked him, well, what are your thoughts on living in the moment? And if you know Jeff Bezos, he's normally very kind of mild-mannered, but oh man, did that upset him. And he's like, I know that there are books out there that talk that we should live in the moment. And he goes, that's just not me, right? He says, I have to think in the future. And I don't know if, Samantha, you knew that Yale has a class on happiness that a lot of people have been taking. It got really popular right after the pandemic. Did you know that?
I didn't.
Yeah, they did look it up. Yale has an actual course on class, like college class on happiness. And what they found is that those that seem to think about moving forward or anything in the future, they're probably not going to be as happy as that person that maybe just thinks in the now. So, for example, goal setting can make you, that won't make you miserable, because what you're doing is you're writing measurable goal of what you can attain. So that's okay. But it's when you think of being a big visionary and you write down, Samantha, being that's what leads to, as they say, unhappiness. But have you ever heard what Jordan Peterson says about that whole thoughts on happiness and unhappiness? Have you heard him talk on that, Samantha? No? He says, okay, maybe it is true that if you think in the future, if you set goals, if you're ambitious, you're probably not going to experience so many times of happiness versus if you worked at, let's say, Taco Bell, right? But he said, so what? Because he said, think about it. How many times of happiness do you really have? And he said, in his lifetime of, I don't know, 60, maybe 70 years old now, he's like, maybe on your wedding day, you were happy. You were happy on the day your firstborn was born. But really, when you think about it in the terms of 50, 60 years, you may only have 3 or 4 times that you really experience that kind of happiness. So with that being said, the futurist is probably someone that doesn't think in the now.
Okay.
I have a book here on one of my shelves, The Power of Now. I think I only got to about chapter 3 before I threw it across the room and then put it back on my book. It really is. It's way down there somewhere.
That is too funny. Well, I mean, I think one thing that you're probably also alluding to is the power of the predictable future. I mean, historical trends and how things, history, quote unquote, repeats itself. I mean, you have the ability to have the foresight of economic trends and things to look forward to and to really understand that. And if you're not looking at that, it might be a disservice to you. So we understand what a futurist is now, but let's talk about the Underground Club. I'd like to understand what that is and if you could dive into your role there.
The past 18 to 20 years, I've helped humanitarian causes become viable and break ground. We did a solar project in Uganda. I don't know if you knew this, but 90% of the people there don't have electric or power. From there, when I dealt with the Minister of Energy there, I was then connected to the president of Tanzania. And corn grows like a weed there, so we built an ethanol plant. From there, I was then referred to the president of South Africa, where we're actually still doing a waste to energy project. That is a $550 million
Wow.
project. Yeah, we're taking trash and then converting that into energy. From there, I was very fortunate in the fact that I helped manage a foundation that's made up of 26 uber wealthy trustees, and these are spread apart throughout the world. They're global families, kind of legacy families. And the mission statement within that foundation that I help manage is not about wealth creation, but rather wealth preservation. And the mission statement is to fund projects that create jobs. Now, not just construction jobs, Samantha, but sustainable jobs. So from that came, I built relationships with maybe, I don't know, 3 to 4 of the trustees where we just build a more longer term friendship. Or maybe when they're in Miami, we'd get together. Or if I'm in Puerto Rico, I'd get a text from one of them and he'd say, I'm also a Caribbean junkie. And if you happen to be in Puerto Rico, let's get together. So from that, there was a group of 10 billionaire families that all got together at a castle in Germany, and they formed a yield co. And they all put in 120 million euros, and then they contacted me. So from there comes the Underground Club, and that is a very unique elite club where we acquire businesses globally.
Okay. And so what do you do when you acquire them? Are these long-term holds? Or are these something that okay.
I help other people learn how to acquire them, whether it's themselves or for a portfolio of what they do. So I don't have any, want equity in them, yet I'm compensated in other ways.
Understood. Understood. So this is something that people would find you for who are interested in having your leadership or guidance on acquiring a company. And is said company maybe something that they have been looking for, or do you help them find a company because they're interested in just an acquisition process? Can you kind of walk us through that?
No, the majority of the time they either have an idea, a certain resort, certain hotel they're wanting to acquire, or they know that there is a need in that underdeveloped country, and maybe with a few acquisitions that could be synergistic to what that need is, whether it's a clean water program, whether it's I'll give you an example of what I mean. I have a friend that runs an organization out of New York called the Ugandan Water Project. It's really out of New York, but it's called Uganda. So he raises funds, just like a typical nonprofit in the New York area, and it's specifically to provide clean water in Uganda. Last year, it was around this time. It was actually the first week of December. I still remember when it was. It was December 4th. We got together and he said, Regan, what's a way that you could help me? Or I think in so many words, do you want to make another donation to the Ugandan Water Project? Kind of a thing. And I said, James, I got another idea. What if instead I invest my time and money and help you acquire a business that would be synergistic to the Ugandan Water Project?
Oh,
I said, So I said, it could be something here in the US, and you want to just kind of pull their heartstrings and let them know who you are, that you run this organization called the Ugandan Water Project. Here's what you guys do. Here's the need. So what he did was he found a company that provides water filters. They manufacture water filters. And I said, contact them and ask them if they want an exit strategy. One of two things. He's either going to say yes or he says no. He might say, okay, so you're looking for him to say yes. I'm actually okay if he says no, because now we can paint that big picture and say, this is what I do. You've been making, because this was one of I think the second largest company that does these water filters. So they're obviously a manufacturing company that makes millions. So what are you going to do? What do you want to do? Exit in 3 to 5 years and walk away with millions? Number one, you're going to get killed with capital gains taxes. Or what do you want your legacy to be? I said, talk to him more around that. Talk to him about the fact that maybe we could do something together. And then when he passes, now that legacy still lives in places where there's a real need. So yeah, with the acquisition, we're going to look at something that's synergistic to either a need or a cause that they have. And we're going to paint that big picture with that owner that might say, oh, I was thinking of selling so that I could sail off into the sunset, or even worse, so that I could collect seashells all day. Now, Samantha, here's the difference between me and a typical merger and acquisition person. They will run with that and they will keep playing with you, right? Tell me about what you're going to do. Oh, I'm going to spend time on the beach. What time are you going to wake up? Whenever I want. And then they'll say, nice, you're going to make every day a Saturday, 6 Saturdays and 1 Sunday. And they'll say, now I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to be bold, and I'm probably going to upset some people. So if they say, I'd like to collect seashells all day, I say, no, kitty. Really, you're going to waste the rest of your life away like that? You were blessed with all of these talents, these gifts. You were able to form the second largest filter company or whatever it was, a big resort, able to make millions. You've separated yourself from all the masses. And what are you going to do the last years of your life? You're going to collect seashells? Let me ask you a question, pal. Do you have a pulse? Usually they'll say, yeah, what is that supposed to mean? Well, if you have a pulse, then you still have a purpose.
I love that.
There was one time I had someone that said, no, I want to pay cash for my home, not have to do anything. And then I also want to do with the extra $450,000 that's left, I'd like to buy the Rolls-Royce convertible limited edition. And then he really did ask me, what do you think of that? Well, Samantha, he did ask. So I said, well, I think that is absolutely horrible. On the acquisition side, that could be a person that runs a nonprofit. It can be somebody that I helped somebody just around this year, last year, worked at a big Fortune 500 company, was used to a strong six-figure income, and then lost his job, right? And then thought, gosh, Christmas is coming up next month. And he said, but I don't want to have to get another job because the people that I do interview with are younger than me, and I've helped lead this Fortune 500 company for over 30 years.
Oh, yeah.
But again, he doesn't want to have to get a loan through a bank. He doesn't want to have to take money that they maybe had in savings. His wife probably doesn't want him to either. So I said, look, let's work together here. Let me help you with an acquisition so that you don't have to put any money down.
Are you looking to build sustainable wealth and achieve financial freedom? Viking Capital can help you do just that through multifamily investing. With a team of seasoned real estate experts, Viking Capital conducts deep financial analysis and data-driven asset management to deliver outstanding returns. Their strategy focuses on low-risk opportunities with significant value-add potential, preserving your capital while maximizing long-term growth. Join them and be part of a success story. Viking Capital has acquired 30 properties and manages over 6,000 units, all thanks to their dedicated team and valued investors. Discover their current deal offerings at vikingmultifamily.com and start your journey to financial freedom today.
So it sounds like not only are you helping with the acquiring process, but you really strategize with them.
I do. That's exactly right. Although my background is as a venture capitalist, or if you look me up on Google, they'll say I'm a venture capitalist, but I think in 2026, I'll be changing that and say I'm a venture strategist, not a venture capitalist.
Oh, I love that. Okay.
Yeah, so do I. It just kind of hit me about 2 hours ago. I got an email from somebody that said, let me connect you to Regan. It was an email, and he goes, he's not a venture capitalist. He's a venture strategist. And I thought, oh, that's so good. I'm going to have to steal that one.
Oh, I love that. So tell us more about the company. How long has it been around? Is this a new venture? Tell us more so people can understand like how they could be involved.
Yeah, Fifth Avenue Capital was started in 2006.
Okay.
And although it did start off with more doing merger and acquisitions, it then went to that relationship that I have that is with the foundation of the 26 kind of legacy families. So Fifth Avenue Capital was more about funding projects in underdeveloping countries that were humanitarian. And I still do that. I'm working on a project right now in Congo with somebody that is one of the wealthiest families in terms of years ago, his great-great-grandfather had this piece of land and they donated it as a park in the area. So the great-great-grandson contacted me and said, what can I do with it? That's all I have. And he said, look, people think that I'm wealthy because we come from one of the wealthiest families in one of the poorest countries in the world. He said, but I'm actually just asset rich, but I'm actually cash poor. And I said, I've got an idea. It's in a centralized area. It's used as this park, and there's lots of land, and there's water on that park area. Let's build solar. Let's do a clean water project on there. Let's do something with that piece of land that your great-great-grandfather donated years ago. So the Fifth Avenue Underground Club has really just been something that over the years, people have been saying, Regan, this is something that you've helped people do. Maybe you ought to put together some kind of a club. 2 years ago, I was at the Biltmore mini kind of workshop there about a year ago. And after that, the people that were there said, Regan, you ought to move forward with this. And then almost last year in January, I did an event at the Key Biscayne Yacht Club that was around acquisitions. The Fifth Avenue Underground Club is kind of my ministry, if you will. It fits the talents that I've been given, and I can help others with it. So that is a new initiative of mine, and I think we can refer to it as my hobby business.
I love it. Like a passion project for you.
It is, yeah.
Oh, wonderful. So how's the response been since you started?
Well, it's secretive, so I don't tell many about it, but it is more than I can handle right now.
With what's going on, I mean, are you seeing a big influx? You're saying you're pretty busy right now, but I mean, there's a lot of turbulence in the economy, a lot of
Yes, there is.
So how is that affecting your business, or is it at this point? I mean, because it could go both ways. I feel like there's probably a lot of companies looking to sell because there's a lot of turbulence, but there might be also less people looking to purchase.
Yeah, look, again, I don't get involved in talking with business owners that want to sell. I just don't do that. That's just not what I do. So I really can't talk on that intelligently.
Okay.
What I can say is there is a lot of turbulence. Things are very volatile. We don't know where things are going to go. I had a very interesting conversation yesterday, and it was a Sunday, yet it made my day. I don't want to get into too much of who the person was, but he did run for president years ago, and he's thinking about, again, his last name is Yang. He's thinking of wanting to run as an independent. And he was just telling me how we really don't. He was one of the guys that was the very first person out there that said that he believes that AI is not probably a good thing. When he asked me what I think is going to happen, kind of like you did just now, saying, as a futurist, what do you think? I said, look, I don't have a crystal ball. And anyone that does, it's just, times are just so, what we might think is so logical is not. I mean, it just, I'm smiling because we didn't logically think the meeting with the president and the mayor in New York. And did you see that by any chance?
Yeah.
That wasn't what we thought. So I just think that using wisdom, kind of what I said at the beginning, we're going to have to take things one step at a time. So I guess maybe right now we do have to look in the moment and what's happening. You can't really predict the future. Interesting, though, when I said that Mark Cuban says he's hiring philosophy majors, and specifically for things like acquisitions, you can't put together a good think tank of Gen Zers, of people that are kind of deep thinkers and maybe creatives, and say, what do people like? There's just such difference with the generation types, isn't there? It's hard for me to relate. I thought it was hard to relate to the millennials. I actually can relate to them a little more than I can the Gen Zers. The best answer is we don't know, so we have to be aware. And another good answer that I really like to do, that I do more than the average person, is this. I journal a lot. And by journaling, we get answers. Yeah. It gives us the answers. It talks to us. It may not be what we wrote, but what we wrote might help us think of something else, which, as you might imagine, which is also probably why I'm anti the whole ChatGPT thing. You gain knowledge when you're writing something out, when you're typing something out.
I will say that's one disadvantage to the sophistication of technology is I feel that a lot of people aren't using their brains very much anymore. And the idea of books and continued education just by learning on a daily basis has definitely become a little bit more obsolete than I would have predicted by now already. And it's unfortunate.
My answer to that is, how do you know? How do you know whether our infrastructure on our energy can even handle AI? And by the way, being the fact that I know a little bit about energy and work a lot in alternative energy, we might be in one of the greatest countries in the world in terms of economy-wise, but we don't have the best infrastructure. We really don't.
When you talk about that helping people acquire, are they having to fund these acquisitions solely themselves? Do you help raise capital and then it's like a big acquisition altogether? Is this just one person privately? How does this all work?
I do have a few trade secrets that I'm probably not going to reveal, but I will say this. We're going to do it more through seller financing. and we're going to find something that's going to be win-win. Let's assume somebody has a business that they want to sell for $1 million. And they say, gosh, I'd like to have that, and then I could retire. And maybe but he's going to get killed with capital gains taxes. It's going to get taxed quite a bit. So what I would teach people at the Fifth Avenue Underground Club to do is to negotiate, but negotiate up. So when you talk with that person that's wanting to sell their business, and let's assume they throw that number out of $1 million, and you'd say, gosh, I get it. That's what you'd like to walk away with. I'd like to negotiate with you. Guy says, look, I kind of have already made up in my mind. I already know what you're going to do. I was going to say 1.1, knowing you'd probably go down and then go down again. But I'll just say this. I won't accept anything less than 900,000. And what I would teach someone to do is say, oh, I'm sorry. You misunderstood how I negotiate. I negotiate up. Instead of 100,000 down, you're going to offer me 100,000 more? Better yet, why don't I offer you another 100,000? Better yet, let's add another to that. Let's make it 1.3. And you know what's going to come out of his mouth. What's the catch? That's actually what I want him to say. Then I'm going to say, you're darn right, there's a catch. You're going to get it over time. So what we negotiate there is that the new owner takes over the business. He can now be retired. 100% of the money that comes in goes straight to him. The new seller is going to work on ways to grow the business. And as he's able to grow it, anything above what he's able to grow goes to him. That's how he'll pay his bills. And then as he continues to grow it, then he gives more to the seller to help pay him off. But he does that over time.
I want to wrap up with 2 final questions for you.
Sure.
Well, I guess first, how does someone who's interested in learning more get a hold of you?
LinkedIn is probably the best way. If you just type in Reagan Rodriguez, futurist, I'm the only futurist. So if you look me up, you'll find me on LinkedIn. That's probably the best way.
Okay, perfect. And my last question for you is, what do you think the biggest takeaway from today's conversation should be for our listeners?
Music and poetry. Sometimes we feel that I don't like to read business books because they really don't help me, but I'm able to read poetry and it helps me see things that I don't. For years, I used to listen to just audios. I mean, I'm dating myself, but back when it was tapes, I would go to the library and buy audiobooks and would just put tapes. Then later I would do CDs. And I used to have this philosophy that I used to say that I was so proud of. And I'd say, if I'm sitting, I'm reading. And if I'm moving, I'm listening. And this was back when I was 20, 21 years old, back when there used to be these things called Walkmans. And when I'd walk out, I would have them with the tape and I'd say, no, only listening to information. And what I've now found is that music can bring out that information that you're looking for. And reading poetry can be more motivational than a book you might think is motivation.
Wonderful. Well, okay. Well, I thank you very much for your time, Regan. And I want to say thank you so much to my listeners. So tune in again next week for another episode. And I can't thank you enough for your time. It was a pleasure meeting you today. Thank you for tuning into this episode. We truly appreciate your support. Don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and share the podcast with your friends. Until next time.